Welcome to Napa Valley Inside Out. I'm Latife Hayson, and I am delighted to be hosting this podcast, shining a light on one of the most beautiful and coveted lifestyles in the world. If you're interested in developing a property, planting a vegetable garden, making olive oil, fashion, architecture, interior design, county rules and regulations, biking paths, art, getting into the wine business, farming practices, the tax benefits of owning a vineyard, or the ultimate private tours and tastings, and all the fabulous annual cultural events we enjoy here, and so much more, then you won't want to miss this show. Every week I will be interviewing amazing talent, vintners, entrepreneurs, leaders, consultants, event planners, and more. They will share their knowledge, experience, advice, goals, passions, and their best kept secrets. Hello everybody. Today I'm delighted to introduce you to my good friend Tim Martin. Tim is the founder and owner of several cult wine brands, Gauge Branding and Design, Carbon Wines, and Kitchen Collective. So thank you for being here with us today. This is fun.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
It's a while since we sat down and chatted, and you have been very busy expanding on your enterprise. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about that. But why don't we start out with the road to Napa and how you ended up getting into the wine business?
I started working for my grandfather when I was 11, and I was in the hotel restaurant business. He was a restaurateur, and I started working in the kitchen when I was 11, and then just spent my life in restaurants. And as my career grew, I started purchasing wine for the restaurant groups that I was working for, was coming to Napa Valley, to make a long story short, fell in love with wines and decided to take a right turn in my career, which was actually going really well, to leave all that and get into wine, which is how a lot of people, I think, get into wine. There's a romance that captivates people when they come, and some of us leave everything to get into it. So.
And what was your first job in the wine business?
The first job was working for Lale Vineyards, and I helped kind of launch and run that company for 11 years. Mrs. Lale's family's been here since the 1800s. Her great-great-grandfather, granduncle was Gustav Niebaum, and so I worked with her and fell into this amazing lineage. Her father, John Daniel, who owned and ran the winery Inglenook, mentored Robert Mondavi. Robert Mondavi mentored Robin Lale, and Robin Lale mentored me. So I kind of fell into this incredible history that everyone belongs but me, and so I feel very blessed and honored. And learned a lot about not only how this business works, but kind of where we came from, the history. And I think that's been very important to my development and where I've gone.
Wow, that is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you were with them for 11 years.
Yes.
And then what was the thought process to move on and do something yourself? What did you do after that?
My father always encouraged me to kind of do my own thing and be an entrepreneur. I think that was always inside of me. And after I left Lale, I actually was running, I was the GM of another company, Melka Wines, for Philippe Melka. And I had, at that time, kind of decided I was going to launch into the branding world. Had hired this amazing designer from Chicago. And so the first company I actually launched is Gauge Branding, and I partnered with one of the top designers in the country with the idea of helping people sort of develop the packaging and the outside and all the experiential things outside of wine in design.
Well, being a member of Tusk, which you are the founder and co-owner of, I can say you certainly executed on the design. The packaging is absolutely beautiful, incredible, really.
One of the Tusk was interesting for me. It was something that was kind of in my head for a long time, and I had been working with clients. And when you work with clients, you develop something that they want naturally. And I think for Tusk, I was able, from a design branding side, really kind of go for it. My business partners really supported that. And what I knew is that my partner Philippe Melka, who's an amazing winemaker, he had created this incredible wine, and I felt like it was our job to create something just as beautiful on the outside. So handmade boxes and
Just
hand linen
exquisite.
wrapped,
Yeah.
specialty papers. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of is that everything is made here in the U.S. A lot of people think that I have this incredible stuff that's made in China or somewhere else, and it's all made here in the U.S., which actually costs the company a lot more money. But I really felt like supporting America, supporting our workers was important, and it's something we did. And I'm very proud of how it turned out, actually.
Oh, you should be. I mean, it is absolutely exquisite. So tell us more about Tusk. When I first met you, maybe 2009, you had only just started the company. So actually, it wasn't even released, because I remember it was 2011 when I built my house and you did your first release.
Yeah.
So tell us about the success of that, because I just read an amazing article that you guys made number 3, right, out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the article. Tell us about Tusk.
Well, Tusk was, when you launch something into the world, you can say you're here, because that's where you're in your mind. But when you launch, there's a saying with art, when you turn it around and you show the world, it's no longer yours, it's theirs, and they decide. And so I think for Tusk, we had a vision of what we thought would be great. And keep in mind, we launched in 2007. In 2008, the world crashed financially.
Yes.
We were making a luxury high-end wine. All my friends in wine told me, you're literally going to die on the vine. We're going to the bottom. You're going to the top. I had a lot of sleepless nights and told my partners we may be drinking a lot of Tusk. And when we launched into the world, there was this incredible response. And I think it started with people seeing sort of the way we looked at Tusk was I kind of focused more on other luxury goods like Hermes and Tiffany's in terms of how we positioned it and branded it. And the response has been overwhelming. So when you fast forward, 10 years from that moment of not sure anybody wants this, we have a very long waiting list that's well over 10 years, and we feel very honored and blessed of all the people that have come, through the door. We work very hard every year to make the best of the best, and I had no idea that the success of what would be. And going back to your article, we don't have a PR firm. We do everything ourselves, and this all happened very organically. And a friend sent me this link, and he said, "Did you know that Wine Searcher wrote this article about the top 10 brands of Napa Valley, and you're number 3?" And it listed, of course, Screaming Eagle, of course, and Harlan, and then Tusk was number 3. And I thought, how do they even know about us? And I felt really honored that we were there, and but I think it's also a tribute to the hard work and the effort that we've put in, and we have the most amazing fan base I've ever seen.
You really do. So how does that work?
When we launched the company, we wanted to do something completely different. We decided that we wanted to drink wine with our friends, and so we had this unique model that we were only going to sell wine to people that we know. So in order to be part of Tusk, you had to know one of the owners by no more than 2 degrees. So it's more like a small family, and that has, I would say, resonated as powerfully as the wines, because it's become sort of this club of friends. And we felt like that was something that was very unique. When we did our first party, we knew this, but our membership didn't know this, that it was going to be a small collection of everyone that knew everyone, because they were all connected to us.
I know, I remember that party. It was so great.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we've adhered to that to this day. 10
Yeah.
years later, that's kind of the foot in the door, is you need to be connected to one of the members. And so what's happened is our members actually are out there, telling other people about Tusk. And that's really the way it's grown, more than anything else, because we haven't done traditional PR and all of that. We've taken a different route with it.
You have a limited production, and so how do you deal with a wait list, a long wait list of, how long is your wait list?
It's well over 10 years.
So how does that work? I mean, I'm sure our viewers would love to know how wait lists work.
Well, people sign up, and I feel bad because we don't have, the supply doesn't meet the demand.
Right.
And so there's this incredible demand for the wine, and unfortunately we don't have any wine, and people are always asking me, well, why don't you just go make more Tusk?
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the quality of the wine and the decisions that we make, which are they're they're not good business decisions. They're great branding decisions.
Yeah.
You know, I've often tell people I hold two glasses in my hand at blending, and one is Tusk and one is more wine. And I could argue that 80% of the people wouldn't know the difference, but I would know the difference.
Right.
And Philippe would know the difference, and Michael would know the difference. And we've never made that decision. We've always made the best of the best, and unfortunately that has kept the production down. We are slowly trying to grow, but and I hope we can get to some of those people someday, but there have been people that have now been waiting 10 years. So.
And tell our viewers how hard it is to grow, because it really means finding a vineyard. Not that you necessarily have to buy, because that's almost impossible these days.
Yeah.
But finding a quality vineyard that can repeat what you already have, you know. Is that how you expand?
Yeah, I think what we've done, we've been blessed with the fact that Philippe and I have a combined 40 years of experience here, so we have a lot of relationships. And so for Tusk, we are able to expand slowly through our relationships. And that would probably be a little more difficult for somebody who was just coming into the Valley and didn't have those relationships. So this business is very much relationship driven. It's something Robin taught me years ago. Wine is about people at the end of the day. It's about that moment where we're all sharing that bottle of wine. So that's true even on the production side. Very much of this business is driven by relationships.
Oh, very much so. So your next cult brand that you were the founder and are the co-owner of is, was it Immortal?
Yes, Immortal is the new brand that I'm launching this year. Me and some other business partners purchased a piece of property up on the Sonoma side of Spring Mountain. It was a brand called Hidden Ridge and getting, rave reviews. But it needed to be rebranded. It needed to kind of get a refresh, a relook. And so that's a new project that I'm launching. And it's a little bit of a tribute to my father and also the founder of the vineyard. He had terraced out this amazing piece of property. It's we have 165 acres up there, 50 planted. It is one of the most gorgeous spots I've ever seen.
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely
In 20 years, when I went there, my jaw dropped. When I tried the wine, I was blown away. We ended up retaining the winemaker. His name is Timothy Milos, incredible winemaker, getting 100 points.
Yes, he did.
From Parker, from the vineyard. And but more importantly, for me, it was this piece of ground that is sort of grandfathered in. It's planted at 55-degree slopes. That's not allowed anymore. Wow. And so the name Immortal came about from this idea. I was at Torque, a local restaurant here, and the sommelier wanted me to try a 1905 sherry. And I thought, sherry, that's kind of strange, but I'll try it. I was blown away, and I was with one of my business partners. And we sat there and we were just enjoying and sipping this 1905 sherry, and then it hit me that everyone who made this was gone. Yet their handcrafted work lived on, and there was an immortality in that.
Gives me goosebumps.
And the founder of our vineyard, he passed away 2 years ago from cancer, unfortunately, but his work remains, and the beauty of his terraced vineyards that he slaved over with his bare hands for 3 years is still there, and there's an immortality to that. And the final tip of the cap for me was my father, who always kind of encouraged me to be an entrepreneur, passed away as well last year. And, there are people in our lives, every one of us, that has touched us in a way, and their spirit lives on in us, and there's an immortality in that they live through you. Just like with my kids, I hope to impart something on them, or friends around me, that maybe some of me lives on. And so I think in the brand Immortal, the idea was that we are crafting things today that I hope live well beyond me. And someday someone will drink a bottle of wine I'm making and say, this is incredible, and Tim's no longer here, but his work is here. And so we found this little jellyfish, and most people don't know about it. It's called the Immortal jellyfish. It's the only animal on the planet that can live forever. Most people don't know about it. You can Google it. And it lives out here in the Pacific Ocean between here and Japan, and when it gets older, it reproduces its cells back to youth and starts over again. And that idea of reproducing yourself on others and your spirit on others is kind of the moniker of what we're about, and creating things that are timeless.
I read that great article in Forbes that came out on April 23rd, I think. But before I get to that, how much wine will you make from a vineyard that size, 50 acres planted?
You know, right now of our flagship wine, the Impassable Mountain, will make about 500 cases, and our second wine called Slope will make about 3,000 to 4,000. That won't be a little more in distribution. So
you said in the article that we have drawn a line that in Sonoma does this well and Napa does this well.
Yeah.
But Mother Earth did not draw that line.
Yeah, you know, again, as a guy who loves challenges, when I took on Tusk, for instance, going backwards a little bit, again, all my friends telling me you're crazy because that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Market crashed. No one's buying these wines. I love challenges. And that now people are asking me, how did you do that? Having lived here forever, my parents actually lived in Sebastopol, and when I would go over there, you know, all the people in Sonoma would go, hey, you're a Napa guy. And I would say, no, I have dual citizenship. I have family here. And there seems to be this, well, Napa does Cabernet, and Sonoma can do Chards and Pinots, but these are arbitrary lines that we drew and said, that's that, and this is that. And Mother Nature didn't do that. And so the challenge for Immortal, which I love, is that this is a Sonoma Cabernet that's going to blow people away.
Yeah.
Because in their minds, they're thinking, well, you know, Sonoma can't do that level of cabs. And we have placed this cab against some of the top cabs here in Napa Valley, and it has more than stood on its own. And I think I love educating people because my parents were educators, and I love, you know, that idea of, well, they can't. And it's like, well, are you sure they can't? Because maybe they can. And so the challenge is now we'll be educating people that, wait a minute, Sonoma can make amazing Cabernets, and here's one of them. And there's many more coming.
Oh, and they're so lucky to have you because you're so good at branding. So is this your first project where you are rebranding rather than beginning a new brand?
No, one of the first rebranding projects, I've actually done this a lot for clients. So clients will call me because what happens is people fall in love with the romance of the wine. And what they get right a lot of times is they'll hire the best winemaker. They'll get an incredible vineyard. They'll have all the facilities, but they don't always think about the branding. They think about what's inside the bottle. But in today's world, everything's branded. We don't want to buy a toaster if it doesn't look pretty. Your spatula has to be branded. And so what happens is these wines get launched, and then they don't go anywhere. And there's sort of this assumption sometimes for people outside that they've thrown all this money at it, and these wine bottles are going to grow two little legs and walk off to people's homes. And they don't. So I usually get the call going, wait a minute, we did everything right. I have to be the person that goes, you didn't because your label's terrible, your branding's terrible, you don't have messaging, but I can help you.
Yes.
And so I spend a lot of my time as an advisor to other wineries and wine brands that they have all this passion, they have it there, they're just kind of missing that one part. And I always encourage people, whether you are working with me or others that do this, make sure you have a complete team. Make sure you have somebody that's thinking outside the bottle. Because a lot of times people are only thinking inside the bottle, and then those wines don't do very well in the marketplace. Not anymore.
And they're not easy to sell. Wine is not easy to sell unless you've really got a good brand and got good sales.
That's right.
I love what I consider, I found it on your website, your mission statement for Gauge branding. It says, our job at Gauge is to ignite the relationship between your brand and the consumer by creating a strategically measured name, package design, website, advertising, social voice, and much more. So let's not introduce your brand to the people that want it. Let's make them lust for it.
Yeah. And we call that your brand print, like your handprint. And I think when I sit down with people, the same as I do with myself, you have to ask yourself the question, what do you want the brand to say? Not what am I saying? It's not what I'm saying. It's what is the brand saying? What is Tusk, for instance, saying when I'm not there? So those message points have to be thought through all the way down to from the business card, through the website, through the packaging. Everything has to have a brand voice and a brand message. And when you look at some of the best brands in the world, you know, like Apple and Hermes and Tesla right now, they have a message and there's a vibe and a feeling and a voice. So that is what wine needs because there's so many wines, we're all confused. Nobody knows what to buy. Right. And so sometimes it's the brand separator that helps people make those decisions.
So with Immortal as a new wine, you haven't released your first
No,
vintage yet?
no, May we're
Right.
releasing, yeah.
So how do you start selling a new label?
Well,
Unknown
I
label.
have a network of people over the last 20 years that are following what I do, and
Right.
and collectors that
Yeah.
want wines that I'm producing, and so I have a database of people that are interested in what we're doing, and actually when we acquired that property and the previous brand, which was Hidden Ridge, there was a whole collection of people that knew about this brand that was kind of hidden away. So
It's amazing, 100 points, and most people hadn't heard of it.
yeah.
Let's see what else. Oh, Bella Radici. Tell us about Bella Radici.
Bella Radici is a fun new project that I launched with some partners here, and also two celebrities, Nikki and Brie Bella. They're on the E! Channel. They have a show called Total Divas and Total Bellas. They film a lot in Napa Valley. They love wine, and we've become very good friends. And one of the things I told them, we actually got together because of Bottle Rock. We were all having fun at Bottle Rock together. And I had said to them, in wine, one of the biggest challenges is you start a brand, but then you got to go find people. As you just mentioned, you have to find people. I said, your issue is you have a ton of followers and you're drinking wine, just not drinking your own wine. So you have what every winery wants. You have people that want to follow what you're doing. We should create something around that. So Bella Radici literally means beautiful roots in Italian. They're Italian, I'm Italian, and the other partners we all have kind of this real history in agriculture. And it was this idea that we all have beautiful roots we came from, with our families, and beautiful roots meaning literally the vines. And so our partnership, literally, that company is about finding the best beautiful roots, as in vines, vineyards, to make wines. And those wines are going to be more affordable than, say, Tusk or Immortal. They're going to be more readily available. And we're just launching those, this year. And it's been a very fun partnership because we are all really good friends. And the idea was, let's do something fun and let's create something that other people can be attracted to. And that's going to be a really fun, project this year.
I think that you are a genius when it comes to marketing and creating a brand. But you're also a genius in the different companies that you've formulated that really complement each other. So tell us about Carbon Wines, another company that you're founder and co-owner of.
Well, Carbon Wines came about because I realized there were a lot of small companies like a Tusk or Immortal that they needed someone to give professional hospitality experiences, but you didn't need a day-to-day person because for a lot of small wineries, there's only a couple hundred cases, so it doesn't make sense to have a full-time person sitting on property twiddling their thumbs. The other issue a lot of people have is that you want a professional. And so I partnered with two professionals in that business, wine professionals, and the idea was that, actually go back, the first thing Mrs. Lael told me is, I need you to be me when I can't be me.
Oh,
She needed me to be her carbon copy. So that was kind of the original idea in my head.
Brilliant.
And what I needed as the businesses started to grow is I needed somebody to be me when I couldn't be me. When the owners can't be there, they need somebody to be there. Thus the name Carbon. We're going to be your carbon copy. And so Carbon is a sales company that I started where we're doing high-end hospitality experiences with professionals and giving the messages of the company. A lot of these wineries, wine brand owners, they don't live here,
right,
or they don't have the time. They're busy, with their day job paying for this thing. And so they need professionals to, do the hospitality portion of that business. And so that was started a couple of years ago. And again, we didn't market. And it was been amazing. The response has been overwhelming. That business also has a wait list of a lot of wineries going, yes, I need exactly that. So we're trying to grow that, but grow it the smart way because, again, the business is built up of professionals. So we feel very honored at the response that we've had. It's been very, very successful, actually.
Wow. And so then jumping right along to food, Kitchen Collective. Kitchen Collective was a venture that one of your friends had dreamed about, and you wanted to help him along the way because you had been helped along the way. So tell us about Kitchen Collective.
Well, I got into this business, again, going backwards to Tusk because, my best friend, Philippe Melka, we started together at Lale. Philippe he made the wines at Aubryon, he made the wines at Cheval Blanc, but, Petrus before coming here. Yeah. He was winemaker of the year, Robert Parker's top 9 winemakers ever. But more importantly, he's become my best friend over 20 years. And as his career skyrocketed, he told me a long time ago, if you ever do your own thing, I want to help you. And he was really kind of one of the early pinnacles that kind of gave Tusk legitimacy because, people follow Philippe and they thought when we launched at that crazy time, who is this wine and what are they doing? Oh, Philippe's behind it. Yeah. Has to be, good. And so I've had a lot of people over the years, including Mrs. Lale and others, that have really supported my dreams to help me get here. And so my friend Garrett Murphy had this dream of starting this kitchen collective, and it's a club for foodies, basically, that want to get together. The most important room in everyone's home is generally your kitchen. It's where people gather. And but what we know is that the one thing people don't want to do is you don't want to clean up and you don't want to do the prep work. So we do all that for you, and it's a space where you can go either with your friends or other foodies, and you can have a high-end culinary experience that you're part of. So it's not a restaurant. You go there and you get to be part of the cooking experience and then eat what you prepared. And these clubs are very big in Spain and France. This is the first of its kind that I know of in the US. And this was my friend's dream, and I wanted to support his dream as others had supported my dream. So, there's a few of us in that partnership, and I'm one of them. And it's pretty exciting to be part of a new idea, something fresh and new that doesn't exist. And I think that people are really drawn to this new concept.
Oh, really? How's it doing?
It's doing very well, actually, yeah.
And it's open just in the evenings?
It's actually open. The club's open, I believe, from about noon on, almost every day, yeah.
So do you have any other companies in mind that you're thinking about starting?
I always have things percolating in the back of my mind.
You are amazing.
I have a few things that are kind of in the works, but right now I have a full plate.
Oh boy, do you ever? Yeah. So how do you see the next 5 or 10 years for Napa Valley? We've been through some pretty amazing changes since I've been here in the last 18 years or so, and for yourself as well. A changing of the guard, I think we might say. How do you see the next 5 to 10 years here?
I'm actually really excited because I think that there is going to be a changing of the guard, but I think what you're going to see is a freshness and new ideas, a new vibrancy as a younger generation sort of takes over. I think there's going to be that. I think there's going to be more outside influence as bigger firms and companies are buying up properties, and I hope that doesn't take away from this kind of mom and pop's feel that we've always had. It's interesting to me because I really believe in the small family wineries, and I hope that Napa never loses that per se. I hope we don't become sort of this corporate entity where every winery is owned by these VC firms that are buying them to flip them. I hope that doesn't happen because there's a spirit and a soul here, and we all feel it. That's why we all live here, and I hope we don't lose that. So I think the next 5 years is going to be very interesting, and I don't see that happening, but I do see that it's there more than it was, say, 10, 15 years ago.
I think it's inevitable that it happens, really. We've been watching, I obviously watch very closely the sale of vineyards and wineries and transfer, where the children, the second generation, do not want to get into the business.
Right.
And so it's inevitable that it's either bought up by a corporate conglomerate or a family conglomerate or VCs,
Yep.
So, how many more years can we go where the families are still in place unless other families come in and buy wineries, which is the case with what just sold this week. I'm drawing a blank, but one of the wineries that just sold this week. Oh, Heights.
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
was
That was another family.
Yeah, which is great because we have not really seen that.
Yep.
It's been a lot of purebred capitalists and.
But I've also seen on the interior side, I think that people don't see as. I think kids growing up here, and I have 2 kids growing up here. There's this. I don't want to be here. Yeah. Then they go see the rest of the world.
And then they come back.
And then they realize, there's a reason this is the most toured place in California, neck and neck with Disneyland. It's a pretty special place. having lived here for over 20 years, and I lived in a lot of other places that weren't as nice. Napa Valley has this incredible feel to it that no matter where I travel in the world, some of the most beautiful places in the world, I'm never sad to come home. And I've lived in some places where you have to go through that 2-week detox of, I live here and my job is here. Napa Valley isn't like that. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of those kids of winery owners say they don't want to be in it. And as they go experience the world, they realize, you know what, maybe I do want to get in it. And I'm seeing them come back.
Yeah,
and so
definitely.
I think that will keep the legacy going, actually.
Yeah, and there's been a slowdown.
That's my hope.
There's been a slowdown in the sale of wineries for sure in the last year. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here.
It's been
great
to be here.
Wonderful.
Thank
The
you.
viewers love that, I'm sure. Thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week.